G'day, welcome back to another edition of Peloton on Pause, brought to you by Green Edge. It's the Director's Edition, and it's two guys I've spent a lot of time in team cars, a lot of great memories. We've got Laurenzo Lapage, the Prince of Belgium, and Matthew Wade, who's in a bit of a bad spot, I reckon, because, Whitey, the Giro was your favourite race. You loved the people, the culture, the food. How are you holding up, mate?
Yeah, look, I haven't gone to drinking red wine every night and eating pasta, but look, it does feel weird, Jonesy. The last 22, 23 years, I've only missed 4 or 5 editions of the Giro, and it is a race that I really love. And for me, the month of May is Italy. And look, hopefully we're back there in October with a vengeance. But this month of May is certainly a different one for me.
And Laurenzo, what's life like over in Belgium at the moment, mate? You still sinking a few duvels in your spare time?
Yeah, we also had 2 months lockdown, but we were always allowed to go outside, so we could have a walk or we could practice. Not the same as in other countries. So, but we were not allowed to have friends coming over. So a lot of people at home, some duvel and sometimes some wine. But missing the race, I think everyone who was involved in cycling was missing, especially the March, April, the big months here in Belgium with the classics and everything. So that's something we missed, yeah.
I was going to say, cycling, a lot of people wouldn't know that is number 1 sport in Belgium. How have the locals been not getting their cycling fix? Did they dive into, I think they tried an interactive version of Flanders, didn't they? It was like a version of Zwift or whatever. Did the locals get into that?
Yeah, we had a lot of viewers on that day. Everything was live on television. The same speakers, same journalists who give commentary also in normal races. So it was popular, but of course it's not the same for the people. And because we were allowed to go outside, a lot of people started biking. So if you went out with your car, there were hundreds of people on the bike that you never see otherwise. So I think people, and they're still talking in newspaper. There's a lot of things going on in newspaper, on television. So they showed all the editions from races on television always. And the people, they were really great viewers on that, great amount of viewers.
And what was it like in Valencia? Obviously, the restrictions have been pretty tight in Spain as well. What's it been like over the last couple of months?
Yeah, so Spain and Italy had pretty harsh lockdowns. I think Spain's nearly just under 30,000 deaths and Italy's just over. So we're still in phase 1 of lockdown. So for 8 weeks, we couldn't leave the house except to go to buy essential goods. So supermarket, pharmacy, they were pretty much the only things that were open for 8 weeks. Kids weren't allowed out of their house for 8 weeks. Now, thank God I don't live in an 80-metre square apartment. But in the last 2 weeks, we're allowed to leave in certain windows. So adults can exercise between 6 and 10 in the morning. Then you've got senior citizens hour between 12 and 1. 10 and 11. Or 10 and 12. Then 12 till 7 is for kids. And then, again, another hour for senior citizens between 7 and 8. And then 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock is adults exercise again. And so, it's... School. My kids haven't been to school since the second week of March. School is canned here until the first week of September. So that's going to be 6 months no school or organised team sport. It's been challenging. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was going to say your kids are very active and they love their sport. I mean, how have they been holding up through all of this?
Look, lucky we have a pool. So the last 3 to 4 weeks, the kids have been in the pool every day, and it's been warm enough. It's 30 degrees here today, and it's been warm enough for the last 2 weeks. And also, we've got a backyard and front yard, and I got a home trainer for the first time at my house in 15 years, and I jumped on Swift, and even my boys, all the kids were on Swift as well. We changed the bikes, and they haven't got video games, and so that they didn't until about 3 weeks ago till we cracked. And they were jumping on Swift and riding it every day and just mucking around. They were doing something, but they got into a bit of a routine. They've got a little bit of schoolwork to do, but it's not their normal routine. And also, my kids were in Oz in December, in all of January and 10 days of December. So they've been so out of their normal routine for such a long period. It'd be great to get them back at school anyway.
And Laurenzo, a lot of people that we've had on the podcast have developed new skills in this lockdown period. You know, they've either taken to cooking or, they're into this TikTok craze, into dancing and things like that. Any new skills that you've developed during this 2-month period, Lapage?
Actually, the thing what I do more now is I go walk every day, 1.5 hour. And I had a small business about cycling clothing, so I'm trying to develop that more now because I have more time. So things like that, I'm still that because there's a lot of things going on in Belgium now, also for the protection masks. They're not enough, so I try to be in that business a bit, and yeah, we have to fill up our days because it's not possible to sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And what about you, Whitey? Did you develop any new skill sets over the lockdown period?
Well, I wouldn't say skill sets, but I think I've done more reading in this last 2 months than I would ever do. Usually, you know me, Jonesy, when I'm at races, I don't do anything except go to the race. I can't switch off. But at home, I'm okay. So I've actually been reading a lot, and I'm not someone who really got into series on television and stuff, and I really have. I've got into some great series on Netflix. Read a lot, and so just did some things that I usually don't have time to or have time to do. So that's been a bit of a positive, I suppose. And I suppose as well, because I have jumped on Swift, I'm probably feel the best I've ever felt since I retired on a bike at the moment. It's just intensity, and when I usually ride bikes, I usually just jump on and go for a cruise. And Swift, I didn't have that mentality. I'd go on and race. So I was enjoying doing some real short, intense races, and now I've come back just riding the bike normally. It's actually, I feel really good on the bike and really enjoying it.
Are you tempted to get into the Zwift, Lapage? Get back to the old track days, mate?
No, I'm full. I'm like I say, I'm into walking every day.
Yeah.
Last week I did, for example, almost 50 kilometers walking in 1 week.
Wow.
This morning I did already 1.5 hours, so I feel good with that. So
yep.
I'm a little bit older as Whitey. That's why also. But I when I hear these things about Swift, maybe he can resign next year and come back on the bike again.
Yeah, well, that's right. You are looking bloody fit, Whitey. I'll give you that. Speaking of bikes, I remember when you sold me a bike, Laurenzo, back in the day at the Herald Sun Tour, and you're in a little stand there, and you sold me a bike that was actually about 4 centimeters too small. You're a con man.
I was thinking I will never see you again. So that guy in Australia, I'm gonna sell him that bike, so I never come back here. I will never see him again. And then 2 years after or 3 years after, you were there again. I said, "Whoa, that's gonna be a problem."
Yeah, well, I did square up. Remember that time we saw you on the last day of the Tour de France when we were working for Fox, and you were there, and you won the tour that year with Astana. And you had your nice pressed shirt, and I remember opening a beer up, and it just sprayed all over you and ruined your outfit.
Actually, you did that with Upset.
Yeah, that's right. It was a square up. Yeah,
that's good. Sure. I only know. That's good. I only know it now.
Yeah. Hey,
I saw you coming. I said they were talking when I was signing for the team. They were talking about Dan Jones, cameraman. And then I saw you coming. I said, "Oh, not that guy."
Yeah, the con man. How's this period been, Whitey, from a director's point of view? Obviously, it's been tough with the riders, not knowing when they're going to get started. Obviously the stop-start nature of the season, given that you guys had a pretty strong start to the year. How's it been from the management of the team, from a rider's perspective, and so forth?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of different phases there. At the start of the shutdown, I was actually in a camp in Spain when we had maybe 10, 12 guys up near Andorra. And because the first set of races were getting cancelled, Paris-Nice stopped, or the team had decided we weren't going to Paris-Nice and Tirreno. So to supplement that, we got the guys together and had this training camp. And just as this training camp was like 2 days in, Spain started to lock down. And so that initial phase, we had to get everyone home, get out of that training camp. We had people from Italy at the camp as well. And we cut the camp short. We boys rode back to Girona the next day. So we did 3 days of a planned 10 or 11 day camp. And at the start, we didn't sort of realise how big this thing was going to be. So it was then just putting the goals, but just back a little bit. Let's just see what happens, see how this evolves. And then after that phase evolved, and Europe basically went into shutdown for 6 or 7 weeks. For us, it went pretty quiet. There wasn't too much for us to do. I think it was more the coaches. The coaches were having obviously daily contact with the guys. Some guys wanted to continue through that period quite intensely because that was their normal period of intense racing for the classics. We had some Swift racing, we had some Ruby racing, and that was really the coaches. I had a little bit to do with that, but not too much. And there was a period there where we didn't have much at all. And it's only these last 10 days, really, since we've got a new calendar up for grabs, which starts World Tour-wise, it starts on August the 1st. We might have Burgos, which starts the week before. And we're only now locking in our plans for that rest of the season. So this last week's been nice and busy, and we can get our heads back into the game. And it's only starting now. I think all the guys are in that period with base kilometres before they start doing a lot more intensity in the months of June and July to get ready back for competition.
Hey, Lorenzo, what's been the feedback from the proposed calendar in Belgium? What do the fans and alike think of the revised schedule?
In Belgium, when you talk about races, people here are crazy about Flanders and those races. So for the moment, they are all on. And the tour is the most important race, that too. So people are talking about that, but the most important is for the people in Belgium here, the Belgium classics and semi-classics, and they're all on. So they're preparing now things like they were doing before for that period. So to go and watch the races and do from point to point, and how people are, they're crazy about cycling. So actually they do the same as they did for the races when they were in March or April. So they're just happy it's on.
Are they expecting those races to have any crowds, or have they said anything about that, or restricted sort of areas? Or it'd be hard with the Belgians once they're sort of at a skin full of duvals to stick to the 1.5 meters.
The thing is, the rules from the UCI are also changing now, actually every day or every second day. So what for the moment the plan is that the start and the finish area is going to be more suspended for viewers, for the fans. But I think on a course from 200 kilometers, if you can put people everywhere, and it's not things like the VIP area on the Quaremont, things like that, going to be less, of course, because you cannot do that for the moment. But I think also with what happened the last 2-3 months, people are a little bit more prepared for everything, and I think people are not so stupid to take risks. So I think that will happen, but I think it will be more over the course everywhere, not on certain places like before we had the Quaremont. It was crazy, thousands of people. But I think people were going to be now all over the course.
Yeah. What about Whitey I suppose the big thing from a logistics perspective, with so many staff and such a compact calendar, is that going to be one of the biggest challenges, trying to work out, okay, well, we need staff at this point and this point? Because, for example, one day you've got Roubaix, you've got the Giro and the Vuelta all sort of clashing the one moment. Is that going to be the biggest sort of headache moving forward, do you think?
At the moment, yes. But look, what the new cycling is going to look like when we return, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And we don't know, I know there's working groups at the moment with the UCI and all the team doctors of what the best case scenario looks like for the athletes and staff. But at the end of the day, we're going to be of the mercy of every country's health department. So we don't know what it's going to look like at hotels. We don't actually know how many staff we're going to be able to bring to these races. It might be even restricted. We might not be able to do massage. And I know at the moment, as we stand, massage is not allowed in Italy. So, of course, things may change by the time we get to October, but there's so many questions that we're working on it, but we're not going to know the answer, and we're not going to know the real logistics for another month, I would think.
It really does open the door up. This is unlike, obviously, any season that we've seen in our lifetime. Does this really present some unbelievable opportunities for these big races that are up for grabs, Whitey, like particularly things like the Tour?
Yeah, I think so. I think the overlapping of all the big races is going to be one thing. I think a lot of the teams are going to put obviously their best teams in the Tour, which frees up the Giro a little bit because there's no overlapping. Guys won't be going from the Tour to the Giro this year. The other one is how do guys handle training for these races? Because there's going to be a maximum of 10 days of competition for guys who are doing the Tour de France. Now, some of these guys, Tom Dumoulin, Roglic, Kruijswijk, Froome, they haven't even raced this year. So there's guys there that haven't raced for going to be more than a year, 15 months without any competition, and they're going to have maximum 2 short stage races. So some guys are going to react really well to that, and some guys aren't. And now normally you start in the Tour de France with 25, 30 race days. Guys will be starting with 10 to 15 maximum. So that's a big difference. People who can train really well, and people who that could have a big effect on the third week of these races, especially the Giro and the Tour, because not many races are going to be done beforehand. The Vuelta a little bit different because I do see a few of the key guys doing Tour of Vuelta. You've got that month in between. But, there is. And because of the overlapping of certain key races, I think you may see some different winners, some winners that you wouldn't have normally seen in these races, which will be exciting.
You were chatting earlier about, obviously, Zwift and how this has sort of taken the cycling world by storm. How do you find the reaction to it all? And do you think that there's going to be a spot for this even in the future when things sort of go back to normal, given the mass popularity of streaming this sort of stuff live?
Oh, I do. I think what people have realised, and I think the lockdown has forced people to get onto home trainers out of necessity, but people have realised that actually if you're doing specific work on these home trainers, a lot of these guys I've spoke to in the last week, our riders, they're actually feeling really good because you're doing intensity and it's intense and it's structured. And then the only thing they're lacking at the moment is volume because they haven't done, until 2 weeks ago, they hadn't done a ride pretty much more than an hour for 2 months. But they're feeling good, and I think it has its place. It has its place for specific training. But I also, like Lorenzo was saying before, that the virtual Tour of Flanders had 1 million viewers. Okay, 600,000 in Belgium, but they had 1 million viewers of the virtual bike race. There is actually esport. Cycling is very unique in the fact that our esports is actually physical. What you have to put out power and you have to really push yourself on our esports. Not playing with a control game. It's very different, and I do see esports taking off with cycling, and I think it has got a big future for streaming and also competition.
Yeah, Lorenzo, after the Flanders, are they expecting to do more of these type of races in Belgium, given how many people tuned into it?
They were talking about, but like for example, after Flanders, we had also a Tour of Swiss in that way. So, but I still think, like Whitey said, it can be a part in the future for it, but people are still waiting for the real stuff to see. And the Swift style was also something that riders already used before in a kind of way. If they did specific trainings on their TT bike or something. A lot of them were doing that already on rollers. So, but it's going to be a part for the future, I think, and it's a good thing for people doing rides with the stars. And I think they're going to do it like this. But the real thing on the road, that's still something they miss, and I don't think that you can compare those two.
Now, stepping away from the current sort of cycling stuff, a lot of the fans want to know about your beginnings becoming a sports director. I'll start with you, Lorenzo. Did you always know that you wanted to become a DS when you were a rider? How did you sort of step into the role as a sports director?
No, actually, I didn't know because I was till 37. I was a professional rider. I did a lot of track racing, 6 days. And the year before, I got the opportunity to become a sports director the year after. Actually, my first year, I was only for 20% sports director. I did 80% of VIP stuff, going on the road with VIPs and riding around in the classics from point to point and things like that. So, but I never had the idea before to become a sports director. I was always thinking, when I stopped racing, I just go in the business from my father. We had like a business in cycling clothing. So I was born always in sport, and those people came over. But that was my idea, and at the end I got the chance to come in that job.
And what about you, Whitey? You were approached when you were a rider, to become a DS pretty much straight from when you finished your career as that.
Yeah, look, I didn't think of it either. I think back, people don't realise as well, unless you've been around cycling a while, that when I was finishing up 2006, 2007, cycling was nowhere near as international as it is now. It's only those years after, 2 to 3 years after I retired, that the Skies, the BMCs, the Oricas, all those teams existed. So, back in the day, Belgians employed Belgians, Italians employed Italians, French employed French, and there wasn't any real opportunities for anyone outside sort of that bubble. And I did get approached. Dave Miller spoke to me in my last year of riding, at the start of my last year. Hadn't even thought about retiring. I was only 33, and I liked the idea. The startup team would turn into Garmin, and had to make a decision to continue to do 1 or 2 more years. Or my mindset at the time is, look, is 1 or 2 more years really going to change my life? Whereas if I've got an opportunity now, if I don't take it, someone else will. And there might not be an opportunity to do that role in 1 or 2 years' time. Little did I know that the sport was going to turn very international very quickly, but I'm happy with the decision, and it's obviously a role that I really love.
What do you think, Laurenzo, makes a good DS? Like, what are the key attributes you think you need?
I must say, for example, with Whitey, because his last year, he was in the team where I was working already as a DS. You could feel already on the road that he was a guy. He felt the race. He could carry on a group. He could motivate other riders. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is also, especially now in that new generation, you don't have to stand above your group. You have to stand in the middle of the group, and the riders have to trust you. And it's a good thing, like you've been a rider yourself. You know how they feel when they are struggling, and if they have bad moments, that's something you have to feel with them, and they have to trust you. That's the most important, I think. And then beside that, your organization, that the riders only have to think about the bike and the results to make, and nothing else to have on their head.
It's definitely evolved over the years, even the time I was there, Whitey, the role of the DS and how you have to change your sort of style to get the best out of the riders. Have you seen it really develop? Because it seemed like in the old days, it was a lot more of this sort of hard-ass, old school, just do as you're told sort of thing. Whereas now it feels like it's a lot more, you bring in the riders as sort of shareholders, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big difference between 10 years ago is the amount of help you've actually got. So, when I first, as a sport director, we had 3 sports directors did the whole calendar. Now we've got 7 sport directors. So at every race, you're going to have a minimum of 2, and sometimes at the tour we have 4 sports directors. So, and we've got full-time coaches, we've got advanced course people, we've got this, we've got that. So you've got a lot more people to help you in your role, and it's becoming more specific. And like Laurenzo said, I think we've got, in our team alone, we've got 20-year-olds and we've got 40-year-olds. So you've got to be able to relate to everyone. And that's very different generations. The 40-year-olds are basically our generation, and the 20-year-olds are old enough to be your kids. So you speak to them very differently, and you do. You've got to bring those people along the journey with you, and they've got to buy into whatever the plan is. They've got to buy into what the team culture stands for, and where we're going with results and who we are as a group.
Laurenzo, you said you could see characteristics in Whitey in the early days to be a DS. Is there anyone in the current squad at Mitchelton Scott that you think would be a good sports director?
I think last year or 2 years ago we brought Matt Heyman in, and there was also someone you could feel already on the bike that he had, with all the experience he had and the way the young riders were talking to him and listening to him. That's something. I think that's something you are born with. You everyone, young or old, or they were all hanging on his lips when he was talking about stuff in the race. So. And also, they feel that he don't tell them things just to joke, or everything what he says had some how he says help
meaning.
them actually.
Yeah,
had some meaning. So you don't have to talk too much, but I think if you talk, some riders they want to find out themselves, and then after they say, yeah, actually it was right what the director said. So you have different kind of riders, but. It's a question. They have to feel like you're a part of the team. That not like my director is there and we are here. That's over. That's the old days. For example, when I was starting as a rider, you were sitting at the table as a young guy. You couldn't almost not talk. The older guys say to you, shut up, and the first 2 years you didn't have to talk. So that's completely different now. But like you said, they're coming in and they all have their words to say. Everyone can say his idea. But for example, the meetings with us, it's not a question about I'm the director, I say what's going on. No, it's a question about talking together and find a plan. And the director take the last word, of course. But for me, it's a better system as the old days.
Jonesy, I think that what usually makes for a poor sports director, and if you look back at even some of the best sport directors, is usually the big champions and the big race winners. They're usually not the best sport directors because real champions and people who are overachievers, they really do look at things in a very different way, and sometimes they don't, because they're so talented. Most of these people, okay, they work very hard as well, but usually if you're so talented and winning comes easy to you, it's quite hard for those guys to actually relate to guys who are struggling. And I think the key to being a good sports director is being able to relate to everybody. And I think big champions and big superstars, they know why they were good, and they know how to do it for themselves. But I think a few of those guys in general, they do struggle with relating to everyone, and that's a very, very crucial role in our role.
Getting off topic, you're talking about watching a lot of stuff on Netflix. Did you watch the Michael Jordan series, The Last Dance? It's obviously the biggest documentary in the world, and it's probably going to go down as one of the best. It's amazing, isn't it, the insights of like the world's greatest. Like you're saying, like Michael Jordan would be a shithouse coach because of that mindset where they can't relate and they get frustrated. But also I found in that doco that a lot of these old guys, like the champions, even when they stuffed up, right, they're not apologetic years later. Like look at Isaiah Thomas. All he had to say was, hey, mate, I should have shaken their hands. Yep, my bad. If I had my time again, I would have done it. He couldn't even do that. He's just no. The Celtics did it to us as well. And then he didn't think that there was cameras on that game that showed him grabbing the guy and shaking his hands. Yeah. But even Scottie Pippen, when he wouldn't sit in that game where he thought he wanted the final shot, and they said, do you regret doing it? Nah, man. Probably wouldn't change it again.
The one thing I noticed, Jonesy, I didn't really follow basketball back in the day, and I knew Jordan was good, like everyone in the world did, but I didn't. What it really did emphasize is how good he was. Like I knew he'd won numerous titles. If you told me he'd won 4 titles or 6 titles, I wouldn't have known before I watched that series. But just the drive that guy had over that 12 or 13 year period, and he certainly has proved that Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James, all those guys, actually they got nothing on him at the moment.
There's a good story. There's another good doco. I'll have to send you a copy about the Dream Team in '92, and there's one of the best stories was when they played. So Chuck Daly was the coach, similar like sports director, and he's like, "Geez, how am I going to manage this team of superstars?" I think 11 out of the 12 players were named in the top 50 NBA players of all time. So it could go down as the greatest team in the history of sport. Anyway, so what he did is he organized a game against these college kids, and he played them all out of position and benched Jordan almost the whole game. And the college kids actually beat them. So they rolled them by 4 points or whatever. There was no cameras, it was a lockout. And then he said to them after the game, he said, look, you guys are mortal, you can be beaten. So, and then from then, because leading up to that camp, they wouldn't listen to what he said. But once they shown a bit of vulnerability, he said he could have them eating out of the palm of his hand. So then the next time they played the college kids, he played them all in the right positions, and they have absolutely trounced them and beat every side by 30 points. But it's sort of similar. Getting back to your roles as DSs, what do you find is the most difficult part of your job, given that every day is different, every race is different, every personality is different with who you're dealing with, not just riders but staff as well. I'll start with you, Laurenzo. What do you find the most challenging part of your role?
But the thing is, if like you say, every day the situation is changing. It's there are different personalities, but they're also how they react in different moments. Because if rider, for example, athletes are in a winning position, it's easier to manage them if as they are in problems and struggling. And also that's the same with your staff. So the balance between staff and riders is so important too, because a lot of young riders coming over, if they don't have respect for their staff, because it's the staff actually who helps you to do your job. It's not the stuff that you use to do your job. And that's a thing that also with Lance, for example, we had that. He always said, listen, guys, the stuff is here to help us. They are not here to play with them. And that's a good thing. And the rider is, and that's a good thing in our team, because there's so much respect from the riders to the staff. And that respect is coming back then. And that's our role to sometimes. But you see also in this team, we are now busy with the 9th year. If you see how many staff left the team, there's almost nothing. No, but and if the staff who left the team, they are stopping because they want to be more at home. But for the rest, no one is leaving this team, and that says enough. The atmosphere is really good there. The respect between riders and staff is good there. Yeah, there are a lot of other teams where it's different. And that's our role actually to find that balance, and sometimes to talk to or athletes or staff people. That's not possible. Do this or this, and we have to give the example then in those moments.
What about you, Whitey? What do you find the most challenging part of your role as a DS is?
Yeah, I think at the moment is because we have got so much quality in the group. I think managing people's expectations and managing people's dreams is the hardest, actually, because back in the day the teams were a little bit smaller, and it was a lot more defined who the leaders were, and teams were very one-dimensional. A team had 1 or 2 leaders or a sprinter, and that was it. And no one won outside those guys. And we've always had that attitude of we'll give anyone a chance. But it is I don't see it as a problem, but I actually find it exciting. Is you want to try to get everyone involved, and you want to give everyone as much chance as possible. And guys are just becoming more ambitious earlier, and they're actually becoming capable of winning bigger races earlier. Whereas before, you'd have to spend a couple of years as learning the trade, and then you work your way up through a team. And now you've got guys 2nd and 3rd year professionals that are looking to take leadership of big races. And I think that managing that in a calendar of 10 months with 26, 27 riders, there's always something going on. That's for sure.
Well, you're talking about drawing on the experiences when you were a rider. No doubt when it comes to things like the Tour de France and selection for teams or any of the big races is a difficult one, because there's always people on the fringe that are going to get left out. But in your career, you've had some pretty horrific stories of missing out of Tour de France teams. There's one in particular where your family were coming over from Australia, and you were told right at the death, yeah? Yeah,
and well, that story, that was my first tour I was going to. Well, in 99, I decided to bypass the Giro and do the Tour de France. And then one of our riders went positive at Tour of Switzerland 2 weeks before, so we got the wild card pulled. So that was 99 gone. In 2000 was I was told I was going and prepared all year. And actually, my dad was already on a plane to leave, and I got a phone call on the Sunday night, the weekend before the tour, so 3 days before we'd left. And the team had changed their mind. They wanted to take one more climber instead of one more guy for the flat. My dad had already boarded the plane about 6 hours before. And then, obviously, the famous one in 2004, where I broke my collarbone and knocked myself out warming up for the prologue. So there was a few times, but I think all those near misses going to the tour. I eventually did the tour a couple of times, but I think they helped me, and I think I certainly got easier over the years. That I still understand that the amount of effort and sacrifice those guys are making to try to make selection for a Giro, for a Tour, for a Vuelta, whatever that may be. And the key there is having empathy. So from a business point of view, we've got to pick our best team, and you've got to take the emotion out of it. But I think having all those experiences as a rider, I still, even though it was 15, 20 years ago that I had those incidents, I still remember the pain. I still remember the work that I had to do to make those teams. And as long as you don't forget that, I think making hard decisions, it's certainly a lot easier.
Before we go to our first break, they wanted to rattle off some old stories. So I was going through the archives, and I found some footage from the 2015 Torino race, and it was when Whitey, you almost went blind in one eye. I've got a bit of a clip I want to show.
OG rocks. Then come around here, have a look at it now. Sorry, did that hurt? Oh no. Sorry, mate. Sorry about that, mate.
Oh, mate, that was bad. I remember I saw a magic trick, and it was all about, you know, the disappearing coin in the bottle. And I thought, oh, you know, this will get laughs on the video. What I didn't expect is one, the pressure of that water to come out, but to hit you flush. Now you couldn't see for a good 6 or 7 hours, I reckon it was. At one point there, we thought, geez, this could actually be quite serious.
I don't know what. We must have been short for content, mate. We come
up with a lot of stupid ideas.
Was he filming it, mate? Someone. Oh, Shane was filming. Oh, the GM was filming it.
Because he had the final line. He goes, Dan, the coin's not in the bottle. he was still joking about it. But, geez, you look back and you think, far out, some of the stuff we used to do back in the day there, like, you know, you even think of that AC/DC video we pulled off in 2013 when
whilst in the yellow jersey.
Yeah, and also like even pre-tour, like having everyone there with the wigs on and stuff, and we were sharing it, I think with Astana or whatever.
Yeah,
I think they were just looking at us like we were absolutely bonkers. But,
we've always been a different team. I mean that certainly hasn't changed, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk cycling cravings, presented by Giordana. Cycling cravings time, presented by Giordana. It's all about what do you guys miss most during this COVID downtime at the moment. Start with you, Laurenzo. What are you missing about not being at the races the most at the moment?
Like you said, the riders, actually, the group, the working together with your stuff, because that's the thing also. Till now, I'm now for 17th year sports director, but people are always saying, for me, it has not been a work till now. It's always have been fun to go to races, and of course, at the end of the season, in normal seasons, you are happy that you have a break and you stay at home with the family. But after 2-3 weeks, you start feeling again, I want to go with the guys on the road and I want to do this, and you always have new plans. And so that's the thing, but you miss the most at home. You sit at home here in the morning, you wake up, you don't have the tension from there's a race coming up. In other moments, we go to do recons here, like for me, for example, for the Belgian Classics, you do recons, and I'm living in the middle of Flanders, so almost every day I do parts like I want to see this again and this again. Because you feel the tension, the races are coming, and that's something you miss because you didn't have a view when it was going on, if it was going on this year. So that's something you miss now.
And what about you, Whitey? What are you missing the most at the moment?
Yeah, look, along the same sort of lines. I think Laurenzo was saying, this job's not for everyone, and I still do enjoy traveling. I still don't mind waiting at an airport. I still get excited when I go into a hotel room. I love being on the road. It's been such a big part of my life, wider than this role as well. And I think if you don't enjoy that, I think you're in the wrong gig. The other one is it just shows how much sport has been. It's such a big factor in so many people's lives, and competing. It just it's been a great time being at home with your family. But I just love being with the guys and having that goal and chasing that goal is just so exciting. I think not too many jobs really offer that role, and we are very lucky to be involved in professional sport and to be able to be in such a group where a lot of teams aren't like ours. I think we have got a very close-knit staff and rider group, and like Renzo said before, it doesn't seem like work a lot of the time because you enjoy the company of the people you work with, and I think that's a big bonus.
Lorenzo, we asked nearly everyone on this potty that does it reset your priorities? Does it make you sort of rework, what's important and what isn't during this period?
The thing is with this period, actually, I realized again how much I like to be in cycling and how much I like to be around the people, because after some years working in this job, sometimes you get in automatism and you do this job. But I think for the motivation and for to come back now, I feel younger I want to be there again. So I think that's a good thing to that period off. So for me, I realized in this period that cycling is my life.
And same with you, Whitey. Is it sort of reassess priorities and work out what's important and what isn't?
Yeah, I think I actually through a period of for the lockdown, mate, I struggled a little bit, to be honest. I think I'm just so used to being part of my life. It just not having races, and there was a period there where we didn't actually know what was going to go on. It was pretty grim in Europe. We were losing in Spain. We were losing nearly 1,000 people a day were dying, and to even suggest that there was a calendar going to come on was looking pretty unrealistic. We're down to 45 deaths a day now, and in the last 2 days, more people have died in Spain than Australia in the whole period. But it's looking very positive at the moment. And if there's not a second wave of the virus in the next 2 to 3 months, our calendar looks like it will go ahead. And I think just in that period where we're in between, we'd just been locked down, we didn't have a clue what was going on there, and there wasn't too much light at the end of the tunnel. It just emphasised how much I do miss my job and enjoy and miss the people that I work with.
Well, that wraps up the cycling craving section. We're going to really fire it up now, and we're going to have another break. And when we come back, we're going to talk victories inside the victory, presented by Scott Sports. All right, it's Inside the Victory time, presented by Scott Sports. We'll start with you, Lapage. What is the victory that stands out the most that you've been involved with, either as a DS or as a rider? I reckon there might be a race in 2016 that was a pretty big one. What is it, mate?
Yeah, of course, being in the car with behind Matthew Heyman when he won Roubaix. So Matthew came back. He had a crash in the first weekend in Belgium. So he didn't race almost days. He did only one race, I think, in Spain the week before, just to try if his broken elbow was okay, because he wanted to do already Flanders and the Panne he wanted to do. But together with the doctor, we decided not to let do him this, because the fracture on his elbow was not 100% recovered yet. So then he did a race in Spain, and there he was in the breakaway. And so, but he came to Roubaix actually to be a part of the team, especially for the other guys, to be a motivation for them. And then, if you wanted, the race worked out like we said on the meeting completely. That was actually one of the only races that I did as director, that everything what we said in the meeting came out. Yeah, and then the final, he was there in the front group with champions like Bonen, and Bonen was going for his fourth victory, and all Belgium was behind him, and then we beat him. So that was, for me, that was the top win in my career. Yeah,
it's still one of those victories that your brain still can't process that it actually happened. Like you know it happened, you've seen the video, like you're there, but you still can't comprehend that he actually pulled that off, given like the lead up. Like, was there any point, obviously when he got spat off the back with 18K to go, was your brain going, if he runs top 5, it's still going to be a big result? But was that like the most amount of shock you've ever had, like at a bike race?
I must say he was early in that big breakaway. And then there was a little bit tailwind, so the race was shorter as normal, was good weather. We had Magnus was also in the breakaway, and that was something he said, I want to have someone with me. And the good thing was, like he never had to fight for his position to come on the cobbles. He was always relaxed, and then when he got dropped in that first corner from Carrefour de l'Arbre, the most important section in the final of Roubaix, we heard over the radio, because we had no television connection at that moment, and I said that will be his point, because that was normal way. That was the point where for sure he was done. He didn't race before. And then we heard one moment over the radio, like Heyman is coming back. And I must say, from that moment, I started to believe, like, we can do podium here. We can do top 3. And the second point where I was thinking, he's really strong. when he attacked just before they came into the velodrome, when Bonen had to fight long to come back on that wheel. I say, oh, Bonen also is not no fresh anymore because he's coming from far. He had to close that gap to the leaders. But the first moment I thought was when he came back after he was dropped in the beginning of the Carrefour de l'Arbre because of I think it was, I don't remember the rider from Sky who kicked
Stannard
took the turn a little bit wide and he put Mathieu a little in the gutter. So, but then he came back, and from that moment I started to believe in a win. Yeah.
I think they did a poll, and it was like, top Roubaix victories of the last 20 years. I think Cycling News or one of them did it, and I think Heyman come out on top. Do the local Belgies appreciate the scale of that victory and his backstory, and do they get it over there?
I must say the first Belgian will get it and will show up again that he was a really, really big champion is Bonen, because he said to him direct, Mathieu, don't worry, you deserve this win. So, and also he brought it like this on the television in the evening, and he spoke really well about Mathieu Heyman as a big champion, and I think that helped a lot for the other people also to realize that Mathieu Heyman deserved that win and that he didn't steal that win.
What about Eddie? Does he respect that victory?
Yeah, Eddie respect Eddie. Yeah, I remember after he called me. He said, "Hey, who's that? We won that Roubaix just to play with me." But Eddie respects every wins from guys who are working and fighting for it.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Eh?
Yeah, he is.
What about you, Whitey? You've got a few to go through the Rolodex. What victory or victories stand out for you over the journey?
Yeah, I suppose the ones early on, I think the team's time trial in Nice. I think we just won the day before with Simon Gerrans, and it was a pretty relaxed sort of atmosphere. We knew we had a good team, and we knew it'd be tight. But just that day, everything clicked, and the boys come from behind in a very, very fast team's time trial to roll quick step by under 1 second. So I think for that culminating in taking the yellow jersey, that was obviously a real massive one in 2013. And then I suppose even the Giro, we've had such success over the last 6-7 years at the Giro. There's been so many wins, great wins there. But also recently, I suppose even last year, that Tour de France, where we just got on a roll last year, and to win 4 stages, and I'm sure Simon would have won a 5th one if that stage hadn't been cancelled with the weather. Just everything was going really well, and things might not have gone as planned. We planned on doing something else with GC, but just the way that the guys got, it was just an incredible week or two where every second stage we were winning there, and the Tour de France, everyone knows how hard it is to win at the Tour de France, and when you're taking stage wins like that in breakaways, not even with a sprinter, that's also pretty special. But yeah, so many to choose from, mate. But they're the two at the start of start of our career. I think the team's time trial in Nice in 2013, and then there's been the Giro. I can't pick apart the great wins we've had at the Giro, but last year's tour was pretty special as well.
Well, the team's been doing a lot of these flashback series, particularly with the Giro. And one year that was just unbelievable was obviously 2014. They were great memories starting in Ireland. And then when we went over to the Titanic Museum to kill a couple of hours, and you and I got a photo at the recreating the bloody Leonardo DiCaprio scene on the end of the ship. I remember we put a photo in the bathroom and, they defaced it.
It stayed there for a couple of years. It stayed there for a couple of years in that bathroom, mate.
But finishing with 2 riders that year was pretty gnarly as well. That was just a weird experience, particularly being at the team dinners and everyone was just on the one little table, and we had this massive bus and there was only like 4 of us on there with the driver. Like that was a pretty crazy year, that one.
It does. It just shows how emotions and things can change. We had that big win in Dublin. Belfast. We held the jersey for 6 or 7 stages. Bling won a stage. We lost the jersey. Weendog won the next stage. Then we had the guys getting sick left, right, and centre. Then Bling skinned himself. Guys were going bing bong boom. Then Santa Marita disappeared, and then all of a sudden we've got 2 guys left with 5 days to go and 2 non-climbers with 4 mountain stages and a flat finish in Trieste. And I remember reading some media and talking about some people saying, the disaster that we'd had as a team, foreign media, that we finished with 2 riders. And I'm like, well, the Grand Tours are not about it, and they're not all about finishing. You know, I think there was one other team who won 3 stages, but to win 3 stages to have the jersey for 6 or 7 days, I see that as a success. And we can't control crashes, we can't control illnesses, and it was a funny old tour. But yeah, the highs and the lows in that 3 weeks were one I'll never forget. That's for sure, mate.
But yeah, I reckon that was the most fun I'd had in ages. That last week when it was just like, a handful of us left. That was awesome. But anyway, Lapage's audio is cutting out. We're gonna tackle that problem, and when we come back, we've got Ask Anything. So that's all the fan questions presented by Shimano. Ask Anything time, presented by Shimano. This is all the fan questions, so thanks for firing them through. We're going to kick things off with Fiona Graham, and she wants to know, how does being a DS compare to being a pro rider? What, if anything, do you miss about your days as riders? We'll start with you, Waddy.
I'm someone I really did enjoy training and that physical exertion. And that's the first thing you realise when you swap roles is it might make you fatigue, but it's a different fatigue. And as an athlete, it's a physical fatigue, and that fatigue is switched. It's a different stress, and I did actually miss that first 6 to 9 months. Just I like going out and doing 4-hour training and hurting myself and having those sort of physical goals. And now the goals switch.
What about you, Lorenzo?
Yeah, that's more or less the same as Whitey. As a rider, the only thing you have to do is being in condition when you have to do your races. And also, you don't realize, actually, when you come from a rider, a director, then you don't realize as a rider how much work is actually behind the scenes going on to help you to do your job. So that's a big change. Like you said, in the beginning, you miss the efforts you do. Your body is changing, but you have another kind of stress sitting in the car, and sometimes you don't have control over situations, things like that. That's the difference. But more or less the same.
Alison Bruce, she wants to know, what's the best thing you've been given during a race by the amazing Mitchelton Scott fans? Start with you, Waddy. She's been a lot.
Yeah, there certainly been a lot. I reckon one of the pies I had, there was a pie down under, and it was a homemade pie, and it was I can't remember what was in it, but it had a red wine in it. It was this very unique pie, and I had it just before the start of the stage there, and it was probably the best pie I've ever eaten for sure, and it was handmade, and the guy who delivered it brought it back, the same one, at the end of Tour Down Under. But I can't remember what was in it, but it was incredible.
It was in like a foil wrapping. I remember this pie.
It was still warm. It was still warm, mate.
Yeah, it's like he's literally pulled it out of the oven. The wheels have screeched straight to the start. And also the fan who dressed up as a pie, she was an absolute belter that year, getting into the spirit of things. Yeah,
she was a bit of a regular.
But I noticed that, did you guys stop eating as many pies towards like the last couple of down unders, or you just weren't putting them as much on the videos?
No, we definitely. I think after about 5 years or 6 years of pie eating, I remember finishing one year, mate, and having indigestion for a couple of days. Like we were getting up there 20 plus pies, and
it's not good.
No, it's not good. Knocking down 3 or 4 pies a day. Look, I do like my pies, and when I go back to Oz, I do. I think they do sell them in the UK, but they're not the same as Aussie pies. But I certainly haven't been flogging the pies like back in the day, mate.
Yeah. What about you, Lorenzo? Would it be like a big Duvel, or what's the best thing you got from a fan over the years?
I remember there was always a fan who was a really big fan from Magnus, and he brought beer over here with a Duvel or Grimbergen or things like that. Did I miss say
beers and pies? Pretty easily please these boys.
I did never down under because we have a lot of Australian directors, so I cannot. And bringing a pie over from Australia till here, it's not working.
Yeah, we'll have to get the recipe.
I remember.
Whip it up
I ate pies when the week before I sold you that bike.
Yeah,
I was for Sun Tour there, and then I tried the pies, and they were really good.
And then you had plenty of money to buy Heaps of pies
Yeah.
after you rolled me that year. That's for
And
sure.
then I sold that
2,000
bike
cash.
and I had, was good, yeah.
All right, moving along. Stephen McLaughlin, he goes, Matt, do the non-Aussies get your sense of humour? What's the funniest moment?
In general, yes. Oh, look, I think we've got to be with some of the international guys. They certainly learn quick. But I suppose for me, I've got to speak a little bit slower. As you know, I do get a bit excited at times, Jonesy. So I think some of the guys where English is not their first language, you got to just slow down a little bit there. But you only have to spend a couple of months on this team, and you sort of get the humour. So in general, yes, they do.
Here's one from Marius for you, Lorenzo. How do you pick up a rider after a bad day in a Grand Tour or in the classics? Like, what's your general way of going about it?
But the thing is, we before the race, we always say that there are no robots. Those riders, everyone can have a bad day. After the race, we have the debriefing in the bus, so we try to give them as much as possible time off in the hotel, that we don't talk about racing anymore, because they also need. And like I said, in a big tour or in classics, it can be your goal and it can be your dream, and you can prepare for months for that race. But if you have a bad day that day, you're not a robot. So and that's something that we always say to riders: as long that you do the maximum and you are fair with yourself and to us, like, it's not my day, okay, that can happen. And I think as long once they feel that they can actually make mistakes and being bad, that's not the end of the year or not the end of the career. There are other possibilities, but as long they are fair with that and they just tell us, and then you can change the plan.
If you have a crack, we've got your back. Just come on.
No, but that's
trademark it.
That's it. People, like, we also have bad days. So I think that's a thing in this team, and that's a good thing about this team, that people know they can fail.
Getting back to the question before, Whitey, I just thought of a cracker. They said, like, Aussie sense of humour, what's one of the funniest moments? I reckon one of the funniest moments we had was when we were staying at the AIS in Varese, and we were staying in with the under 18 soccer team?
Yeah, and even younger. I reckon under 17 football team.
Do you want to quickly tell this story?
Yeah, okay. So we were staying there. It was just before Milan-San Remo, and we had to kill 2 days in Milan before the race. And so we had 3 or 4 riders, and myself and you. And we were there. And so it was after dinner. I went to your room to watch Fight Club.
Yeah.
But I didn't lock my door. I just pulled my door closed. And the only people staying there we had 6 or 7 people from our team, and we had maybe 20 guys from this from the under-17 national football team or soccer team. Anyway, so I watched the movie, and off I went. All right, Jonesy, see you in the morning, mate. And so I was basically staying directly across the hall, which is like 2 meters away from the room. So I've gone in there, and I've opened the door, and I've walked in, and I've got to my bed. And there was someone else in my bed, and I was just like, "What the heck? What the hell?" And this kid, I was like, I looked down, there was this young kid asleep in my bed. Anyway, so I've gone there, and I've gone across to you and said, "Jonesy, look at this." I knocked on the door. You got what is it? We've gone in there.
There's someone in my bed. I'm like, what? What the hell's going on?
So we've gone there.
So there's 2 feet.
His feet sticking off the edge of the bed. We've gone in there and we've turned the light on, and we've given this kid a tap on the shoulder and sort of, "Wake up, mate, wake up." Anyway, the kid's woken up, and he's like, "Who the hell are these blokes?" And I said, and he said, "Hey, who are you?" I said, mate, you're in the wrong room. I said, "I don't know how you got here. You're in the wrong room." He said, "What do you mean? This is my room." And anyway, he's looked around and he's seen my stuff all around the room, realised that he'd made a mistake. And I said, "What?" And this guy was in his boxer shorts and a singlet.
Because he said it. He goes, "It was the right room last night." We were like, "Yeah, no, what? No, it wasn't."
I go, "What room are you in?" He said, 6 or something. So we've got 6. That's on the same side, but down the hallway. Anyway, we've gone down. We haven't got keys to the room, so we had to go downstairs, get the security guards. Security guards come back up. Let this kid into his room. He must have gone to the toilet or something, walked into my room, and pumped and just gone to bed. Anyway,
we thought that would be the end of it. He's gone to his room. That's it.
we thought that was the end of the story. We had a bit of a chuckle, and off we went. All right, Jonesy, we'll see you in the morning, mate. See you in the morning. Anyway, I've gone in there, gone into my room, gone into the bathroom, started to clean my teeth. Anyway, I've started to clean my teeth, and I've looked down at the toilet. Anyway, this kid has gone into my room, and he's done number twos. He's dropped the kids off in my toilet, hadn't flushed or used toilet paper.
Yeah.
No.
I've heard of sleepwalking, but I've never heard of sleep pooing, and that's what he did.
So I've gone again. But I've just gone, what the hell? Put the toothbrush down, washed my mouth out, gone back over, knocked on your door again. I said, oh, Jones, I was like in hysterics. I said, Jonesy, have a look at this. And you've like looked at me like, what the hell are you got me to look at now? And I said, look, I couldn't speak. Have a look here. Go on in the bathroom, and there's this bloke's laid a big cable out.
Sorry if anyone's
toilet.
listening to this whilst eating dinner, but he was carbo loading because it wasn't. It was full. That was unbelievable. Yeah.
And unfortunately, they left very early in the morning. They were gone before we woke up, because we would have given that kid a fair bit of stick, I tell you that.
Yeah, he's probably gone on to play for Liverpool, or he's probably a superstar now. But
one thing for sure, he had skid marks. We had skid marks the next day.
you can't script that sort of stuff. All right, moving along to the fan questions. John wants to know for both of you, what's your favourite race and why? We'll start with you, Laurenzo.
My favorite race, when I talk about one-day races, of course, Flanders and Roubaix. I think they are similar. They're one of those two. And then for the stage races, it's the Giro is for me my favorite stage race.
Yeah. And Whitey, what's your favourite race and why?
Yeah, for one-day racing, I have I love Amstel Gold. I think it's a great race, real technical, and I think I got it sort of into Amstel Gold. My big inspiration to sort of start to get into cycling was Phil Anderson, and he won that race in '81 off the top of my head. And so I love that region in Holland, Belgium, in Germany, where it all meets in the one sort of place. That's my favourite one-day race. And as far as stage racing, it's hands down, it's the Giro. I love Italian culture. I love the food. I love the atmosphere around the Giro. As you know, Jonesy and Lorenzo, it's a very different field than the Tour de France. And for me, maybe it was my first Grand Tour back in '98. Have missed 2 or 3 versions in the last 20 years, and I really do feel at home in the Giro d'Italia.
Final question as for you, Whitey, from Ushi Kramer. Wants to know, Matt White, how long will you do this job for?
As long as they have me. Now, look, it's one of those jobs. Since my career, I haven't done anything else. So it's finished school, went through the AOS, went through the national team, turned professional, had my career, and went straight from December being a professional athlete to January taking a team on a training camp. And it's a role that I've got a lot of passion for, and I'm pretty sure that any other job I do in the future, I'm not going to have the same passion or drive for. I just don't think it's possible. And I'm set up here in Europe, been here a long time with my family, and it's a role that I really love, and especially in this organisation. I think the difference is, and I've worked with 2 teams and the national team, is that being part of the setup of this team and the creation of this team, it really does feel like your team. If I had to go to another team in the future, or for whatever reasons, it's certainly. I know it's not going to feel the same. It's certainly not going to feel the same. But creating this team in 211 and being here from the start, and it's a role that I love, and I don't want to go anywhere or work anywhere else.
Good stuff, mate. Well, that finishes the fan questions. Ask Anything by Shimano. We're going to have our final break, and then we've got the famous quiz presented by Pirelli. All right, fellas, it's quiz time. Now, I had to think about what's a set of questions that is going to be pretty close between you two. Now, Lorenzo, we mentioned before, you're really good mates with Eddie, the great Eddie Merckx, greatest cyclist of all time. And Whitey, you're a bit of a boffin when it comes to cycling history. So I thought, why not fire off 10 questions that I've just stolen off the internet? I think Cycling Weekly ran these a couple of years ago. But they're 10 Eddie Merckx questions. And I'll give you 3 answers. If you know what the answer is, yell it out. Let's go. How many Grand Tour stage wins has Merckx got to his name? Is it 51, 64, or 34?
51.
64.
Lorenzo's correct. It's 64.
Total
Lorenzo's
Grand
up.
Tours, yeah, right.
All right, question number 2. In total, how many days has Merckx spent in the Tour de France yellow jersey? 102, 85, or 96?
96.
96 is correct. Lorenzo's out to a 2-0. He knows Eddie better than Whitey at this point. Question number 3. In which year did Merckx become the first winner of the Triple Crown? 1970, 72, or 74?
Oh, man.
He never gets.
Yeah.
In which year did Merckx become the first winner of the Triple Crown? 70, 72, 74. Oh, they got it wrong.
Yeah.
What year was he world champion, Lorenzo?
Don't remember.
Just have a stab. 74, 72, or 70?
I'll have a crack at 72.
Yeah, 74.
Yep, 74. You might have to go to the third umpire and look at that, but Lorenzo's up to a 3-0 lead. Whitey, you're going to have to come back with a bit of wind up your pipe. Question number 4. What outside influence hindered Merckx in the 1975 Tour de France? Was it he was punched by spectators, snow in the Alps, or French collusion to get home a winner?
Punch.
Yep, Whitey, punch, you're back. It's 3-1. Question 5. For what reason was Merckx asked to stay away from the 1973 Tour de France? He was suspected of doping.
Yes.
The organisers... just hang on. The organisers wanted the Tour de France to be his only Grand Tour, or the French public were becoming hostile to his dominance.
3.
Yep, correct.
Banger.
You got to listen to all the answers.
I'm just trying to jump in early to get that.
4-1. All right, question 6. Which is the only classics Merckx did not win during his career? Was it Ulm Het Gold? Yes. Paris Tours, Amstel Gold Race. I mean, this was really pretty stupid in the end because no one knows Eddie better than Lorenzo. Question 7. Which city has an underground station named after him? Antwerp, Paris, or Brussels?
Brussels.
Yes. Whitey. Correct. Question
Lorenzo
8.
knew that. He just didn't answer.
Yeah, he's just let you in.
Lorenzo knows these answers better than Eddie does, mate.
Lorenzo probably submitted these to Cycling Weekly. Question 8. Which race did Merckx launch in 2002? Tour of Beijing, Qatar, or Dubai?
Qatar.
Yeah.
We were there, Jonesy, remember?
That's right. It was good times, huh?
I found that. I will send you that video later on where you were singing with your guitar.
That's right.
I still have it.
Do you remember we hocked a cigarette off one of the marshals during the race? You even went back and got your lighter on the motorbike.
Be interesting if we ever see racing back in Qatar.
Yeah, well, that's it. But didn't they say that a lot of those the UAE countries, obviously Iran got it pretty bad, but I think a lot of them, the other ones have been pretty good with the spread of COVID.
No, it's more just the fact that it was a bit of a fad there. They were the first country in the Middle East to get racing up. And then after the Worlds were there, they stopped. And I think whoever was running the show there, they sort of lost a bit of interest in cycling. Whereas now it kicked off in Bahrain, UAE. This year we saw a tour in Saudi Arabia just before the lockdown started. So it'd be interesting if we see competition back in Qatar.
Hey guys, did you notice that when you were talking about that Netflix series from Jordan, he was always smoking cigars till 10 minutes before the game?
Yeah, well, look at his eyes. They're bloody yellow.
There's something going on there, isn't there?
Well, they're going like, what is going on with his eyes? And it's like, dude, he's sucking down 6 or 7 cigars and drinking whiskey like for breakfast. Like,
shits and giggles.
It's going to have an effect. They're not going to be pearly whites like with that sort of routine, are they?
No. Actually, in the interviews, you see on the right hand side, he had a glass of whiskey and a cigar.
Yeah,
like they'd planted it there on the next right next to him.
Well, you know they couldn't release it any earlier because they had to wait until he agreed to release the footage. That was part of the deal, like when they shot it all. So he'd sat on it he's pretty smart because he sat on it for 20 years. So the next generation that would have never have seen him play, that are all saying, oh, LeBron's the greatest and Kobe's the greatest. Well, hang on, he can release this. And now they say, oh, shit, hang on, that Jordan guy's pretty good as well.
And especially in the lockdown. And 2, like I was saying before, mate, I'm a mad sports fan. I knew Jordan was good, but after seeing the series, I didn't realise he was that good.
Yeah.
So he has certainly ticked a few boxes, and his whole legacy. Mate, like, I don't know how much money would he still make from Jordanaires. You know?
Oh, he like hundreds of millions a year, easy. We've only got two more Eddie Merckx questions. Merckx joined FEMA. Is it pronounced FEMA in 1968? But what do FEMA produce? Is it coffee machines, instant coffee, or tea bags?
Coffee machines.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct, Lorenzo. Last question. Which football team does Merckx support?
Anderlecht.
Anderlecht.
Lorenzo, you've won in a canter. You've won in a canter. Eddie would be very proud, Lorenzo. You can ring him after this and say, hey, mate.
Took Whitey to the cleaners.
Took him to the cleaners, 9-1. Hey, it's been an awesome chat, boys. Obviously, over the years, we had so many great memories, and it's been great even going back through some of the old backstages and reliving a lot of this stuff. I got a really nice message from Swano the other day, and he said, the fact that he can go back and look at some of these stages from 2014, and, we're talking about things that happened in 2013. They're all there to have a look at, but yeah, it's great reconnecting and sharing a few of these stories. I always give the guys a chance to have one last word to the people listening or watching on YouTube. Start with you, Lorenzo. What do you want to say to the people tuning in for this episode?
To the people in Australia, I want to say I'm really happy to work for this team, and it's a special atmosphere. It's a team that changed my life actually the last 9 years now. So let's hope it can go on for a long time. And I learned a lot of people in this the last 9 years, like you, Jonesy, and a lot of guys that it made my life. It changed my life. Yeah.
Good stuff, mate. And what about you, Whitey? What do you want to say to the people tuning in?
Yeah, stay watching us, stay supporting us. I think one thing that you did pioneer, Jonesy, there back in the day is the way we brought the team to the general public and exposed who we were and exposed the culture and the atmosphere of the team. And I don't think anyone else has done it successfully since. And we're still the same team. We're still the same team. So what you see is what you get, and keep supporting us because we know we've got a lot of great fans all around the world, and your support really is valuable.
Good stuff, mate. We'll have to do another version of this podcast, the uncut version. There's some even better stories. Hey, Lorenzo, like those trips to Canada. They were crackers, hey. But we'll reconnect on another time, hopefully in person over a few doubles once they open up the borders and stuff. But looking forward to racing, hopefully getting back pretty soon, boys. And all the best to yourselves and the families. And we'll touch base again soon. But take it easy.
Cheers, Jonesy. Good to catch up, mate.
No worries.
See you guys soon.
Boys.